11th, and this is now on HNN. Breaking news: after months of speculation, Joe Biden announces his running mate.
I'm in any favor that will keep our island safe.
A modified version of the inter-island travel quarantine is back.
What I appreciate about the process now is that each county is in charge of its process.
This as we learn, travelers from Hawaii headed to New York are now required to quarantine as well.
But some days I get 20 or 30 and I can't get through 30 in one day.
A union grievance is filed against the Department of Health as criticism of the state's pandemic response builds.
These stories plus, Russia approves a coronavirus vaccine and many people are wondering about its safety. That's coming up on This Is Now.
And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for watching This Is Now. We want to begin with breaking news. Joe Biden has chosen California Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate, fulfilling his pledge to select a female VP pick. The 55-year-old first-term senator and former attorney general is the first Black and Asian American woman to compete on a major party's presidential ticket. Biden, in a tweet, said Harris is, quote, a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants. Harris competed against Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination, but left the race after struggling with fundraising.
Certainly we'll follow this news all day long here at HNN and have the very latest for you coming up at 5 on KGMB. Hey, I'm Jonathan. Thanks for watching This Is Now. This is Ashley. We want to get right to the latest news now from the Department of Health.
Health officials are reporting 118 new COVID-19 cases today. We're told 112 are on Oahu, 4 are on Maui, and 2 are on the Big Island. Officials say hospitalizations are up. Hilton Raphael is the CEO of the Healthcare Association of Hawaii, and he's been monitoring hospital capacity. Here's what he had to say about the surge in cases on Oahu.
The LG said yesterday that 2 ICU units here on Oahu are on the verge of capacity. How dire a situation do we have?
Well, right now we are okay. We have some tight capacity at a couple of hospitals. Queen's Medical Center yesterday, for example, had a total of 70 COVID patients, which is a record for them. And they had over 20 of those in their ICU. The concern we have is the rate of increase in infections, because there is a lag between the new infections and when people really get sick and end up in a hospital. And we have 12 straight days, including yesterday, of triple-digit infections. That is what is concerning us, as to what will happen in the next 1 to 2 weeks and as we get toward the end of August.
Yeah, and it seems like timing is kind of a big part of this whole thing. The LG had said that even someone in relatively good health that gets hospitalized is there for about 10 days. It could be longer, 20 to 30 days. And it seems if we keep adding cases before these people leave the hospital, it's going to get really bad really soon. So how are hospitals planning to adjust should they need to?
Well, we have a lot of contingency plans in place at all of our hospitals across Hawaii. Now, the major problem is obviously Oahu, which is where the overwhelming majority of the infections are. All of the hospitals have the ability to do some surge planning, so they can actually increase their capacity if they have to. But what we're hoping is that they don't have to increase their capacity. They can bring on extra staff, but there is a finite number of highly trained professionals, doctors, nurses, and therapists in the state of Hawaii, and that is one of the other critical factors we are looking at as well.
The state's latest inter-island quarantine begins with some modifications. Casey Lund is at the airport with all the details you need to know about.
The best way to think about the new modified inter-island travel quarantine is that if you land anywhere other than the island of Oahu, you do have to self-isolate for that 14-day period, meaning somebody could come here to Oahu from Maui. They don't have to quarantine, but as soon as they return home to Maui, they do have to self-isolate. The same goes traveling from neighbor island to neighbor island. For example, Kauai to Maui. Now, in all counties, you can request a modified quarantine exemption for medical appointments or if you're performing critical infrastructure work. And they'll have to be submitted between 2 to 5 days prior to your trip, depending on where you're traveling. On Maui, for example, you'll have to prove your reasons for travel, but requests are only granted on a case-by-case basis. Essential workers will only be allowed to leave their place of lodging for work purposes. We spoke to business owner Chelsea Kikuchi, who says she knows that the inter-island travel quarantine will mean a dip in business for her. Still, she supports the move.
I'm in any favor that will keep our island safe. I think how long, it's just very scary to think that if it gets bad again, that we would have to go in a complete shutdown, and we don't know if we could open back up again.
On Kauai, tour operators like Kipu Ranch Adventures were almost wiped out by the pandemic. They offer quad and e-bike tours. They worked drastically to downsize their operation for Kama'aina customers. Now, while he agrees with Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami's decision to support the modified quarantine, owner Anton Trevis says it's still going to hurt.
It was almost harder to stomach the loss of that reservation loss, even though it was a smaller number than the first loss being so big. You know, you're down to that last little hanging on, and then to watch that inter-island local travel that you were saying, you know, this is what we're going to accept and work with, to see that just fall off, it was a little bit of a lump in your throat, kind of feeling like, oh, this is really real.
Again, there are exemptions island by island, county by county, but they're a little different for each county. The best thing to do is go to hawaiinewsnow.com, look for this story, and we've got all of them listed in detail with the forms to fill out for those exemptions. Important to remember that the modified quarantine does expire on August 31st. Reporting at the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, I'm Casey Lund for This Is Now.
Now, HPD says they issued 1,350 citations over the weekend for alleged violations of the coronavirus emergency orders. Most were people in closed parks or lingering on the beaches, but some were ticketed for gathering in groups of more than 10. And we're told in just the first 24 hours on Oahu alone, police took in more than 300 calls.
After our exclusive report on the Department of Health's contact tracing program, the union that represents contact tracers has filed an official grievance against the department's management. Mark Carpenter has the latest.
The grievance filed by the Hawaii Government Employees Association says the state has lied to the public about how many contact tracers are working, and they are dangerously overworked. This lines up with what we saw when we followed senators on an unannounced visit to the department Friday, when we met one specialist chasing 192 cases.
But some days I get 20 or 30, and I can't get through 30 in one day.
So how long before you get to them? Could be 3-4 days?
Yeah, whenever.
A revealing snapshot as the state health department falls behind. The embattled chief epidemiologist saying $50 million of federal funding may not be enough.
Everyone's like, oh, you got $50 million, but they forget it's not just about contact tracing, it's that whole piece of infection control, that we have to increase the capacity in our state, our entire state.
However, Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell says he offered the state a portion of its CARES Act money expressly for more contact tracers.
And that offer was made to the Director of Department of Health to assist, and we were told no need, they got it covered. They have enough contact tracers.
Yet our visit and the number of cases show otherwise. The union says staff are being forced to work 6 days a week of involuntary overtime and are even taking medical swabs in the field without training or adequate protection. Some saying new leadership is needed.
It's ultimately going to be the governor's decision, of course, who runs these programs, but we have to have a change in direction to get this straight. Otherwise, I tell you, it's out of control. We have 2,020 active cases right now, and there's no way that that small team can even begin to trace those cases.
And Governor Ige this afternoon said in a statement, I am in ongoing discussions with DOH leadership on ways to improve our testing and contact tracing systems and capacity, and we are confident that plans and resources are being put in place to meet the needs of our community. Hawaii News Now reached out to the Department of Health with specific questions and a request for an interview with department leadership, but we're told due to the extreme workload and response to the pandemic, DOH leadership can only respond to media questions during regularly scheduled news conferences. Mark Carpenter, Hawaii News Now.
The University of Hawaii now says it'll have fewer people on campus for fall classes. In a statement, UH says it's urging all students to take as many online courses as possible. Classes that require you to be there physically, like labs and art classes, will still be held in person.
Now, cases among city workers have spread. That even forced Mayor Caldwell to get tested. Lacey Denise has more on that.
Honolulu's mayor and many other city employees will now be working from home because of a growing cluster at Honolulu Hale. One of those infected is on the mayor's staff. We learned the mayor's COVID test came back negative.
I'm concerned that if we don't get a handle on the number of cases and it continues to go up, not as much as last week, but goes up, and at some point in the very near future, we're going to max out our ICU units and more people are going to be dying. And this thing can break wide open, and we could become New York.
48 city workers have tested positive since the pandemic started. The public is urged to stay away from Honolulu Hale and the Fosse building due to the cluster in that area. City services are available only for those with urgent business. A council meeting for tomorrow is also being postponed. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
New today, New York's governor has added Hawaii to its mandatory quarantine list. That means if you travel to New York, you'll have to quarantine for 14 days. Let's toss it over to Danya Bacchus, who has the very latest developments from across the mainland.
Starting today, Massachusetts is lowering the limit for outdoor gatherings from 100 people to 50 in response to new clusters of coronavirus cases.
This uptick in cases and reports of people not adhering to the guidance we have put forth here in Massachusetts means we cannot move forward.
Kentucky's Governor Andy Beshear is now recommending schools in his state postpone in-person classes until late September, noting an increasing number of cases over the last month.
The concept that we would try to resume in-person classes at our peak instead of during a decline is something that would defy logic.
Nationwide, daily new cases of coronavirus have declined over the past 2 weeks, according to the COVID Tracking Project. Hospitalizations are also coming down, including in Florida.
We were at 15%, at the peak. We got down into the 11, 12.
Here in LA, officials say daily hospitalizations and deaths have stabilized. For a long time, Los Angeles County accounted for more than half of the state's COVID-19 deaths. It's now under half.
And the Big Ten and Pac-12 could be close to a decision about whether to cancel or postpone the upcoming college football season. Andrew Boselli is an offensive lineman at Florida State, and although he and his family caught the virus in the spring, he wants to play.
Football is what I love to do. We just worked very hard in the offseason to prepare ourselves for this fall season.
He says he's confident the university can keep its students athletes safe. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
New today, Russia became the first country to approve a coronavirus vaccine, but here's the catch. The vaccine has not completed all the clinical trials. This is leading to fears that Russia is cutting corners to put out a vaccine as fast as it can. Russia is the world's fourth largest COVID hotspot with nearly 900,000 cases. Russian President Vladimir Putin insists that the vaccine has gone through the necessary tests, adding that it, quote, works effectively enough. He says even one of his daughters has already taken the vaccine. We'll just have to wait to see if it is truly effective. Amazon could be moving into shopping malls. Howard Dykes has that story and more economy news.
Simon Property, the owner of Waikele Outlets and America's largest owner of malls, saw shares rise 10% on reports it's talking to Amazon. The thinking is empty department store spaces could be Amazon fulfillment centers. Simon is still profitable, less than usual, of course, but better than expected. San Francisco Superior Court Judge Ethan Schulman has ordered Uber and Lyft to reclassify their drivers as employees. The order applies only to California, does not take effect for 10 days, and will be appealed. Lyft says its drivers don't want to be employees. The usually bustling city-state of Singapore reports its economy shrank 43% from first quarter to second, worse than expected. GDP was down 13% from the same time last year. And Royal Caribbean says it's planning to do COVID testing of passengers when it resumes sailing, whenever that is. NCL says it's also developing new safety standards.
Thank you, Howard, for that report. We want to take you outside now. Check it out. Looking beautiful out there. Here's Billy V with an updated forecast.
Aloha, I'm Billy B, sitting in for Guy Hoggy on this Aloha Tuesday. Let's get you your weather. We'll start with the oceans first. Your surf, 2 to 4 feet. That's going to be on the east-facing shore. Choppy, kind of wind-driven. That's a trade wind swell there. Everything else is 1 to 3 or less. And we're expecting a little bit of a bump as we come maybe midweek towards Thursday on the north shore. But once again, also the east sides will continue with that trade wind swell. Your UV index is at 12. Let's go ahead and show you the forecast. Once again, those light winds are at 10 to 15 miles per hour out of the east. Sunshine, some evening rain, and overnight into the early morning. Other than that, that'll be of the light variety, though. Your daytime high is going to be 91 degrees. Not too much in the way of precipitation over the last couple of hours here on radar, but we are looking at the eastern Pacific. There is one storm, Elita. That's Hurricane Elita. That's the second named hurricane, the 5th named storm of this hurricane season. Don't forget that goes until November. While this is no big threat to land, it just is a constant reminder that we should always have our hurricane kits ready. Once again, that will track away from Mexico, and the tracks have it going in different directions, so we'll be watching this closely. You can always get the latest on air, online, on your mobile app, and at HawaiiNewsNow.com.
Shark Week is back and promises an awesome lineup of shows. The slate of shows will air on Discovery Channel like it has for decades. This morning, I had a chance to chat with one of the stars of Shark Week, Paul DeGilder. We started our chat talking about his encounter with a shark back in 2009.
I was living a dream life, traveling with my mates, shooting guns, blowing stuff up, living at Bondi Beach, riding a big black Italian sports bike. And then I turn up to work one morning in Sydney Harbour, a place where we've been working for decades, and I'm in the water for about 4 minutes, and a 9-foot bull shark grabs me by the hand and the leg and just tears me to pieces. Fortunately, it didn't kill me. It nearly did. I swam back to my safety boat through a pool of my own blood, one hand missing, one leg not working, and I made it to the boat, and my teammates kept me alive until the paramedics could turn up and whisk me off to hospital.
So Paul, a lot of people really don't like that term shark attack, preferring to use shark encounter. What's your take on that?
I totally agree with that too. But when a shark eats you, it's definitely an attack. It wasn't an interaction. This thing ate me. So I'm along the same lines. If it was what we call an investigatory bite, right? Investigatory bite. You know, the shark is curious. It's not attacking. It's not trying to eat you or kill you. It's just checking you out. And unfortunately, they don't have hands. They check out with their teeth. And we are very delicate creatures. And so, yeah, I mostly try and use the word that is appropriate for the event.
What have been your experiences like here? A lot of fun, probably, right?
I haven't been diving in Hawaii. I've been surfing. I turned up for a 10-hour layover, and so I went straight down to the beach and ran into the Disabled Surfing Association, which was awesome. Went out for a surf with them. Yeah, that's them. Yeah, I went for a surf, and then I got onto a kayak and accidentally paddled directly into a surfing competition. I had no idea. I just saw the 100 people over here on the crappy waves, and then the 4 people over here on the good waves, and I went, I'm going to the good waves. And so apparently everyone was wetting themselves laughing at me with this dude with one hand and one robot leg paddling into the middle of a surf competition on a kayak. And then I did pretty well. I didn't do too bad.
All right, let's talk about Shark Week now on Discovery Channel. It's going on till the 16th. What can viewers expect and what can they learn from it?
So Sunday, we aired the Mike Tyson show, which was an incredible expose of how one person that we all think is this incredible, strong, fearless athlete can actually be quite afraid, and to the point where he's throwing his guts up on the boat. But then testament to his bravery and his courage that he would face that fear and go and do something even though he is scared. And so that transition was really quite amazing to watch throughout the journey of the show. And then we've got Will Smith on Tuesday that I got to work with. And then Wednesday, we've got Great White Double Trouble, which was a very science-based show. I worked with three scientists on this show, and we looked at the differences of the two genetic populations of great white sharks, one from the east coast and one from the western and southern coast of Australia, where they meet, why they don't interbreed, why they don't go into each other's territories, which was mind-blowing. And then we got to test out a shark-proof wetsuit as well. So, a little something for everyone, and I'm really excited to see how it came out.
All right, you can have a lot to watch, right?
I love Shark Week.
It's so good, right? And he actually said, and this is an interesting fact, when he got bit, it was 60 years since someone else had been attacked or had an encounter like that in Sydney Harbor. So it's a harbor so many of us have visited.
Right, and Australia has so many sharks too.
I know. Well, it's just that dirty water right there in the bay. Yeah. So it's sort of a rare place for him. But I think he said he was diving for the Navy when that happened to him.
I like his prosthetic. It's very cool.
Yeah, and the show looks amazing. So really an honor to chat with him today. Let's see what the internet's talking about now from the feeds, folks.
That's right. The world's last remaining Blockbuster store will be transformed into an Airbnb.
What?
It's located in Bend, Oregon. Preview photos show that guests will stay in a portion of the store that's been revamped into a living room, complete with a big television and couch that folds into a bed.
And we were bringing back some Blockbuster memories for us, right? There's one. Be kind, please rewind.
Yep,
but we're saying, the Kahala Blockbuster was here forever. At least the skeleton of it.
Right.
It loomed. Now it's gone.
I have such fond memories of Blockbuster on a Friday night with my dad.
Oh yeah, I know. I think my sister's boyfriend worked at one or at the video store, and we got hooked up all the time.
Lucky. This is what else the internet's talking about. Kelly Clarkson will be serving as a guest judge on this week's live telecast of America's Got Talent. Now, she's filling in for an injured Simon Cowell. He's recovering from surgery after an electric bike accident. Now, Clarkson will be judging alongside Howie Mandel, Heidi Klum, and Sofia Vergara.
All right, this next story is going to date a lot of people, including myself. It's been 30 years.
What?
And Bayside is back. We're talking about another reboot, folks. Peacock, NBC's new streaming service, has released a trailer, which unfortunately we can't show to you for copyright reasons. But
sorry.
Look it up on YouTube. Of the new reboot, there are some nostalgic callbacks, including Mario Lopez, Elizabeth Berkley, who played AC Slater, and Jessie. There's also a reference in the trailer to Berkeley's memorable storyline about her taking caffeine pills.
I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah,
that's
what
so
it
good.
was. It's alright. No, now I'm getting hyper here. This Saved by the Bell reboot is really about a clash of cultures. It's about a group of displaced students from a low-income school's closure are sent to Bayside.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting storyline. The new show is set to premiere later this year.
Yeah, I actually watched the trailer. It's not the usual wholesome sitcom you're used to. It's kind of racy.
Yeah, it seems like it's more for the adults, really.
Absolutely, and AC Slater does not age at all. He's the gym coach in that. And before we go, we wanted to show you this. Warbirds are arriving at Pearl Harbor today. The vintage planes are here to mark the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, and they'll fly over Oahu in 3 aerial parades on August 29th and 30th and on September 2nd. We'll bring you all the details as the times and routes are finalized so you can see it for yourself.
And I wanted to tell you about this. There was just a press conference online with the HSTA, the Teachers Union. Our editor is literally cutting video from that and posting it to Facebook right now. So head to our Facebook page to check it out. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Have a great day.
Aloha.